professional organization is called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE, and they give us really good survey data. And employers really value out of classroom activities, experiential learning, getting involved with clubs on campus, potentially research on campus, seeking out internships so you can have some exposure to those different industry fields, getting out there and applying what you're learning in many, many different ways.
Greetings. Welcome to Eric's Angle, the podcast for Iowa State mathematics students. I am your host, Eric Weber, chair of the mathematics department. Today's guest, Tessa Brow, has a double role on our podcast. First, she earned a bachelor's degree from Iowa State University, majoring in mathematics and English. Second, she currently serves as director of LAS Career Services. So she's expecting to hear from many of you after you watch this episode. Please welcome Tessa Brow. Hi, Tessa. Thanks for appearing on Eric's Angle.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about your origin story here as a mathematician in the LAS Career Services?
Yeah, sure. So I came to Iowa State initially as an undeclared engineer. I was someone who was always good at math and science, and I just thought that's what you did. And then I took a semester and did enjoy my classes and was doing well, but just as I learned more about the profession, couldn't see myself doing that professionally. So I say I entered a period of existential angst of not really sure what to do anymore because I felt like I was on that path for so long that it took me some time. And I think this is the message I love to share with students is that exploration is okay. It's okay to think you're doing one thing and then pivot. We grow and evolve. And so I changed my major a lot in that period, but math was actually the constant that stayed with me. So one of my majors along the way was math education. I ultimately did not keep the education component, but I did keep the math major. I come from a long family of a family with a long history of educators. So my mom was a teacher. She actually retired as a math teacher, teaching sixth grade a few years back. Many aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents were teachers. So that was something that was familiar, and I kind of was drawn to that. But it ultimately didn't kind of feel like me either. So in addition to math, I added on an English major and a women's studies minor. I think I really missed being in high school, how you get to have many different disciplines in your life and think with different parts of your brain. That was maybe a piece of why engineering just felt kind of jarring, that I was only getting one aspect of that. And so yeah, anyways, I did ultimately graduate with math and English and a women's studies minor, but that's still a very unique combination, and I had to answer the question of what to do with those. I was very involved in different things on campus, and through different leadership opportunities came to find that I really enjoyed working in the college environment. So I had some great mentors on campus, and I realized that, oh, student affairs is a career pathway that people go to school for. Like, this is something I could do. And so with that family history of really loving education, being educators, student affairs at the collegiate level just felt like my own flavor of that. I knew how transformative the time was for me in college as I grew and discovered, and I wanted to be with students on their journeys as well. So after I left Iowa State, I went to get my master's degree in student affairs and higher education at Miami University in Ohio, and that was a wonderful program. I learned so much there. I had several different assistantships and practicums and got to try out different functional areas, as we call them, in student affairs. So throughout my career so far, I've worked in residence life, academic advising, and now I've been in LAS Career Services for 5 years. First as our career education coordinator, which meant building our one credit career class that's now become a requirement for the office. And then for just over 2 years now, I've been director, so moved into the leadership role for our team. and can talk about that more. But I think of that as supporting my awesome team of professionals and helping everyone kind of row in the same direction and yeah, being a manager, but also trying to build a vision that works for the college and really serves students and also employers, connecting the two, building bridges and kind of, yeah, making sure students are thinking about what comes after college.
That's important.
It is. And it's messy and I love it, as I said, in my own story, but also for, um, and that truly is part of why I love LES is that there's so many options. Certain people take a straight and narrow. They know that they want to take this, be the, they come into Iowa State as a major and they graduate in that same major and they know exactly what they want to be. And that's so exciting. And we still have tools to support those students to reach those goals. But I think often our majors can do so many possibilities, and that's both exciting and empowering, but also can be a little bit confusing too, like how to whittle down and figure out what is the best route for you. So I love LAS for that reason and really want to be a support for students as they're figuring out their own unique formula of what success looks like.
Hmm. That sounds great. Um, a lot to unpack there. So one thing I want to ask about is the fact that you were a double major in math and English. So as I look back on my own trajectory in mathematics, I would say as a younger, in college and grad school and so forth, I would think of math as being, problem solving oriented. And then English is, oh, that's communication, writing and verbal communication and so forth. But as I thought about things more recently, I think mathematics is also communication oriented as well. It's very important skill to have even as a mathematician. So I'm wondering what your perspective is having experience in both of those environments, let's say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of intertwining. I love what you said. I think math is a language unto itself if you want to. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the exact phrase you used, but it is kind of telling the logical story, if you will. It's like, how do we get from A to B and all the process in between? But I think a lot of that is also true in English. So I specifically focused on literature, but did take rhetoric and grammar courses and other things as well. But I pride myself on often being able to see where a story is going before it happens, because a good author or a good writer is going to have all the structure in place where they build the world, they have it in context, they give you little nuggets of character building so that things don't just happen randomly. There's an arc there. And so I think in some ways those things intertwine for me where literature is maybe a bit more humanistic, but it still has structure to it if it's done well, in my opinion. And I think the same could be same said in reverse, where math may be more structured, but when it's used, I don't know, it's still humans are still the ones doing the math, although we're getting into artificial intelligence and other messiness that's beyond my pay grade, but I think you do still have to show the process in a way that other humans can understand and like build the rationale and the reasoning. So, anyways, there's structure
Hmm.
and communication in both.
Yes.
Maybe they aren't that distinct.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the quips I like to make is if you've solved a problem but you haven't communicated your solution to anybody else, have you really solved it?
Yes, snaps to that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Another piece I'd add is both are context specific too. I think like history and the cultural moment matters both in English and in math, like different waves of math theory build on themselves. And that's true in English too. So it's important to know what came before and also connect to where it can go in the future. So I think that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's being informed by other theories, cultural moments, whatever you want to call it, is also important that you can look at a text or a proof standalone, but they make more sense when you consider how did we get to this point? Why are we studying this in the first place? What are the applications? And that's based in a particular moment in time.
Hmm. You mentioned starting off thinking of engineering,
Mhm.
and I sometimes lament the fact that it seems that students in high school that are good at math and science are often prompted to follow an engineering trajectory, whether that really makes sense to them or not. But I'm wondering if that was your experience as well, given that you had this math education background in your family.
Mhm.
Um, was that the case? And then ultimately you ended up pursuing math instead of engineering.
Mhm. No, I definitely think that was the case. This was a long time ago, to be honest. Um, Make me feel old, but yeah, I don't really remember considering anything else besides engineering. It just, I think, was an assumption of you like math and science, so this is what you do. And engineering is a wonderful profession. I think it is a, a very tangible, big industry of like how to apply math and science and make and produce things that are useful in the world. So we need engineers, and engineering is a great path. But I think this speaks to a larger issue that is just hard to solve that we talk about in career services. We can only be interested in what we know. And often what we know from a career lens is what our parents or other close loved ones have done, maybe some of the professions that you see on TV, like lawyers or other things. But I think there's just an exposure gap. There's so many careers out there that you can't really aspire to until you've had some type of way of stumbling across them. And so I think yeah, I think an exposure gap is the problem. And I did feel, I don't know if pressure is the right word. I just didn't consider anything else besides engineering. And that
Hmm.
is a mis many people are implicated in that mistake, including my 18-year-old self. So
Mm. Yeah, I would say that in our program, we have very small numbers of students that start as math majors and then switch into something else. But we have relatively large numbers of students that start as something else and end up as a math major, just like you. And my suspicion is that some of this is comes from the way that high school counseling operates and people look at salary data and engineers typically have high starting salaries. So that seems like an obvious choice. And
absolutely.
um, one other thing that I've learned in my role when I've talked to people in industry, I'm wondering what your experience has been in your role as a career services director. Um, there's a lot of companies in the state of Iowa that will hire mathematicians to do various things. It's just that there isn't any specific company that's hiring lots and lots of mathematicians, the way that some companies hire lots and lots of engineers.
Yes.
So a career trajectory in the state of Iowa isn't so obvious with a math degree, even though
Hmm.
there's lots of opportunities for that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think there's more variation in industry because I would argue that almost every industry needs people to be able to take data and not just numbers, but to find insights and patterns from the nuance of whatever their industry is and then make good informed business practices. And so that's happening everywhere, but it looks different in every industry and every employer. And then there's variability in what that job title is as well. So
Hmm.
I think, I mean, part of what my office is charged with is collecting graduation outcomes data. So where do people go for that first destination after graduation? And it's pretty darn rare for us to see someone with mathematician as the job title that they accept, even at the PhD level. And so often it's being a data analyst or a systems analyst or maybe it's in a consulting space. Like it can be lots of different things. And all of those are still like, yes, have critical thinking, find yeah, again, that systems lens, like make sense of complexity and then figure out what to do with it. And so that's needed everywhere, but it looks so different. So those keywords and that terminology, I think, can be a real barrier to, whereas if you just type engineer in a job board, that is a fairly universal job title. So yeah, I think that ambiguity is absolutely a piece of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the job title phenomenon as well, because another thing I've learned talking to industry contacts is when they post a position that has the word engineer in the title, it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing that we mean by engineer in an academic environment.
Yeah.
And so I don't know to what extent this is true, but I can imagine a lot of our students, a lot of our math majors, if they see the word engineer in the title, they think, well, that's not me. I'm not an engineer, or I wasn't an engineering major, so I'm not suitable for that position. But I think a lot of times that's definitely not the case.
No, I actually pulled up our graduation outcomes data in preparing for this conversation, and it's literally on the screen right now because I just didn't close it. But as I'm scrolling through, like engineer is coming up as a keyword. So there are plenty of math majors that do have like there's a technical service engineer that I'm scrolling past, a firmware engineer. So these they could have been double majors, not drilling down to that level, but yes, you are absolutely right that math majors could do certain roles with engineer in the title.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you have to get into the weeds of what is the job actually asking for and looking in that
Right,
description.
right.
And even if they have specific majors listed, industry is usually pretty darn flexible, except for things where you need to have a specific license. They often list, like, here are the top two or three things that we think connect. But I really love empowering math students, but also other students in LES, where like insert yourself into that equation. Does it stink that you kind of have to do the pitch of like, here's why math should have also been in your list? Yeah, in a perfect world, we would just want them to list math as well, like try and advocate for that to happen. But I think I want students to feel like they can do that. Like, yeah, this is similar, but here's what I bring that is unique from having been a math major. That isn't exactly that. I'm not an accounting major, but I do still have this. And reading the job description, I know I can do this, and I have transferable skills in this area too. So I think I'm just saying, don't take employers at their word,
Mm.
essentially. Um,
Sometimes
uh,
they don't know exactly what they want.
Well, I think I use the term wishflation. Like often job descriptions are like, here's the best person we've ever had in this role, and then we're going to tack on three more duties that we think would be great. And so
I see.
um, a good threshold is if you meet about two-thirds or three-fourths of the job requirements, and then can make a case for how you would learn and grow into the others. So we don't want people to hold themselves to the 100% perfectionism standard to submit an
Hmm.
application. Let the employer be the one to say no if they think it's not a close enough fit. But um, and there's also research that shows different identity demographic groups hold themselves to different standards when applying. So that's an interesting conversation as well. But I think as long as you, as I said, that majority, if you have a majority of the skills and can make a case for growing into the others, it's natural that you will learn and get training and development experiences in any new role. So you don't need to have everything right away. You need to have the majority and then be willing to learn.
Hmm. So, what specific advice might you give to the math majors in our audience,
Mhm. I
other
think,
than come talk to you?
yes, we would love that. And we'll see them all in LES 2030 now, which is wonderful. But I think my major advice is to explore and get involved. And I use the language of prototyping a lot. So I think math majors and other majors in LES. I think we can be very theoretical, intellectual folks who like our academic studies, and that's wonderful and beautiful. But I think, well, I know I have employer from data from employer surveys. Our employer professional organization is called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE, and they give us really good survey data about what employers are looking for. And employers really value out of classroom activities, experiential learning that shows that you can take what you learned in the classroom and apply it in some of those real world settings. And so getting involved with clubs on campus, potentially research on campus, seeking out internships so you can have some exposure to those different industry fields, taking on leadership positions. This is getting back into the classroom, but I think just innovate at Iowa State, like being curious. Maybe that's taking a couple courses in a different discipline that you hadn't ever considered, but want to build some skills. So just getting out there and applying what you're learning. in many, many different ways. Again, there's so many options, and I try not to be prescriptive. I literally have a sign in my office over here that says you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So I think it's not a one size fits all, but the data does show that if you just cross the graduation stage and get your degree, but haven't really gotten involved or done activities along the way, you're going to be at um, yeah, you're just going to have a harder time securing an opportunity. So don't wait to graduation to figure out what's coming next. Take baby steps along the way. Be curious and try something, and know that you can decide you don't like it and then go in a different direction. So that with that prototyping, it's all about, I liked this, I didn't like this, I'm going to try this next. And so always iterating and exploring and applying during your time at Iowa State. And you'll just, yeah, again, that's self-discovery, that's learning. I never tell students like just do it to put it on your resume. But also the reality is you can do those things and then put it on your resume. And so like the growth and the learning is the priority. And you will get to talk about it, even if it's something you decide not to stick with, you can still talk about how you learned skills and grew as a person by having done that. And that's going to make you a better future employee. So yes, get involved. Take advantage
Hmm.
of all the amazing opportunities that Iowa State has to offer.
Yeah.
And then also talk to your faculty and staff. There's so many people who want to help you succeed. So yes, my team is here for career advising appointments, but um, any of your faculty members or your academic advisor, like you have a whole crew here. And so as you're doing that discovery and considering what you like and getting involved, seek out recommendations and processing and reflection time with all of those people who are also in your corner.
I really like what you said about the exploratory nature of um, getting exposure to various things, especially when it comes to potential job opportunities. I mean, one of the things that I tell new graduate students in the math programs when they arrive is to keep an open mind about what research topics they want to pursue. A lot of times they come to our program knowing what they want to pursue, but I suggest that they keep an open mind because they never know what's going to pique their interest.
Yes.
And you just said basically the same thing
Yes.
for students at the undergraduate level that are trying to figure out what kind of job, what kind of career they want to have. To keep an open mind, expose yourself to lots of different things because you never know what's going to pique your interest. I mean, that's the way I would say it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Um,
And if I expand on that, I think I understand why it happens, but I think we can get into our silos in higher ed. And so
mm,
in the being open and getting involved, math club and like very like math focused things are wonderful. I want students to do that as well. But I think if someone's curious about like the financial industry, for example, you can be a part of investment club as well. Like there's nothing that says that you can't. So I think sometimes we get like, oh, I'm an LAS student. I'm only going to do these LASE things, whatever those are. But there's over, it's like between 800 and 900 student organizations. So really combing through the directory and seeing what are some other applications I'm curious about and do I want to explore in that space too. So I mentioned that with classes, but I think that applies to experiences as well. Like do the obvious choice, but also do the not obvious choice. And um, because with that exposure gap, like this brings us back to earlier in the conversation,
yeah.
you can't know that you're interested in something until you know it exists and you give it a try. So um, keep an open mind for the periphery as well, I guess.
Hmm. You mentioned getting involved in research as, as a possible mechanism for these types of exposures, and I want to take this opportunity to advertise the iSmart program, the Iowa State Math Research Teams program that runs in the spring semester. We're always trying to get more interest among math majors and even non-math majors for that matter, get more interest in participating in the iSmart program. Um,
How long has that been
and
going, Eric?
I think it's been going, I would say 2018 or 2019. It was
So before my time, like I
pre-pandemic.
don't remember that as a student. That's really cool.
Yeah. Um, and you mentioned NACE. I know they have this list of NACE competencies that I've thought a lot about. And some, at least, maybe half of those competencies, I think research experiences at the undergraduate level actually exposes students to those
Absolutely.
skills, and that's where they can pick those up more so than, in a typical math class.
Mhm.
So I think there's multiple reasons why urging our students to get involved in the iSmart research program would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, for those who don't know, it's the NACE Career Readiness Core Competencies, and it's a framework that's employer driven. So it's an articulation of these are the skills that are most important across industries. So I always say, like, yes, we also want students to have subject matter expertise in their disciplines as well. This is a good pop quiz moment for me, but the 8 core competencies are professionalism, career and self-development, critical thinking, communication, teamwork, leadership, equity and inclusion, and technology. Ooh, I did all 8.
Excellent.
So yes, I completely agree that many of those are in research, but also a lot of the other prototyping things that were mentioned too. And I do think
Hmm.
many of them come through in the classroom as well. Reflection's another skill I would really, I mean, yeah, reflection's a skill. I think reflection is important for students to pause. I understand that students are so busy and have so many credits and so many things on their plate. And I was guilty of this as well. But I think sometimes we go through the motions and we check things off this list of like, okay, that problem set's done with that exam. But I think pausing to look back and think about what you learned in the process is really important. And because we can't articulate what we can do if we've never thought about it. So anyways, happy to get you the link, or anyone else can just Google NACE Career Readiness Core Competencies and we'll find them. But that is an activity we do in LAS 2030 like, okay, these are the things employers want and need. And I think that is also a good reminder. Sorry, I'm zagging in a different direction, but math majors stereotypically are very good at the critical thinking component, and probably technology
Hmm.
and some others that are like really, yeah, we excel at these so intuitively, but all employees need all of those things. And so I think sometimes students can grumble like, why do I have to do this English 2500? But it's just a good reminder that we all need to be growing and developing in all of these areas. And even if you are a mathematician in academia, you will still have to communicate and you will still be on teams with faculty and other things too. So I think
Yes.
sometimes we prioritize one or two of those at the expense of the rest of the list. And I truly believe that all majors, all disciplines, all industries need all 8 of those skills. There might be a higher emphasis on one, but it's a good reminder to um, still refine your abilities in the other areas because I don't think you will be successful without that. And that's again where prototyping comes in.
Hmm.
So many interconnected threads here.
So Tessa, where can students find you?
Yeah. My physical office is in Carver. That's where I'm at right now. So 150 Carver.
So they have no
Got
excuse for not seeing you then, because they're in Carver all the
no.
time.
Yes, we are right downstairs. And then we're also, of course, open for virtual appointments and happy to meet students where they're at. But and our website is pretty robust. It's careers.las.iastate.edu, and you can find our phone and email address there and so forth. Another platform I want to give a shout out to is SciHire. Hopefully, students have heard of SciHire, but if not, everyone already has an account created. It's preloaded into your dashboard. So if you go to login.iastate.edu and the Microsoft dashboard comes up with all your apps, SciHire will be there. SciHire is what we use for appointments, so that's why I'm mentioning it here. At any time, they can go to the appointments, and very similar to Navigate, see here's when all the career advisors available. Thursday at 11 a.m. virtual works for me, and I'm booking that in. So that's another way they can find us. And then while I'm talking about SciHire, there's also a job board there. So at any given time, there's several hundred, usually thousands of internship or full-time job postings. Um, a pro tip is to set up a job alert, which we actually do as an assignment in the class to get notifications when things come that meet your filters. So I'm getting too far into the weeds here. I'm like, you would want to use the job function filter and select probably technology and data, but also maybe other things. But anyways, we will talk about all that in a career advising appointment. But the point is, we are all about automating, again, what works for you, what are you looking for, and how can you get regular notifications that something has come into SciHire? Because there might be a lot of things in the fall right before career fair season, but if you're checking now in July, it's kind of a slow time. So we don't want students to get discouraged and only check once. It's important to be regularly staying up to date with what opportunities are coming in because there is a cycle there. So anyway, sorry, that was long-winded, but SciHire's job postings, it has all the career fair attendees. It's got different links to career resources. So there's lots of things going on there to help students connect with opportunities beyond
Yeah,
campus.
that's
Well,
great
even
to.
on campus, because the student job board is now in SciHire as well.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a fantastic resource. We didn't really have such things when I was in college. I mean, everything was on paper, of course, because computers
Bulletin
were not nearly as, yeah, not nearly
binders.
as common. And so a great resource for students to utilize. And of course, your office is a great resource for students to utilize as well. So, um, Tessa, this has been a great conversation, and I hope that our students do actually take advantage of your office there in Carver Hall. And thanks for being on Eric's Angle.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here. So hope to see you in the audience soon, and we'll be in touch too, Eric.